Hey YouTube, Shelka04 here. So I thought today I'd make a video about the electrical modifications I made above and beyond to the Ultimate RV. Anyway, okay, let's start at the battery. We're going to work our way back. Obviously you've got your negative terminal here. This is your positive terminal. That's pretty standard, obviously. Now off the positive terminal, we slave this is the feed coming off the alternator, and this is a tap coming off, going back to charge the back batteries. Now, I made this cable up, and I made this out of, I guess that you would call this welding wire, because normal wire that's this gauge would be hard to bend, but this stuff is pretty flexible. I mean, it's more flexible than a regular, I guess this is number 4 wire. Let me see if I can see it. I can't. Anyway, like I said, I think it's number 4. Anyway, so I made the ends up and I soldered them on, and then put the shrink tubing on, and custom made each length. Now, back here, I put in a fuse, and that was just sort of as an aside. That was I guess it was recommended somewhere. I don't know where. And this is the solenoid that controls the flow of power to the back. And this is your Achilles heel here. And I'm going to do a completely separate video discussing problems I've had with the solenoid, my thoughts about it, and getting around it. But this is the input on the solenoid, and around the other side we get the output of the solenoid. And then the power comes from here, goes into this protective wrap. And we're going to talk about that in a minute, because I really recommend at least this here. And we'll discuss something else in a minute as we go along. So the wire goes from here, underneath, alongside on the frame, and comes into this hatch here, where there's a deep cell 12-volt battery that came stock, or standard, as part of the RV package. Now from there were 2 wires that came up. We're inside the RV now, looking in a little closet. You probably can't see it. Hang on. But see that little red thing? That's a little piece of crap inverter. I don't know what it is. And once you invert it there, I don't know how you make use of the power. So I actually never used that, although I've left it in place as a backup in case my main system fails. Anyway, so what I did there was, in here on this side, I tapped into because the battery has threaded terminals on top, I tapped into those threaded terminals and ran power to the other side. And let's go around and see if we can see that, because that's something I want to show you. Let's get up underneath this piece of shit. Okay. You see that blue conduit? I think they call that flexible EMT. Oh, we got it right here. You see this? The heavy lead, the number 4 wire, comes from the other side and comes into this compartment where the generator should be, or used to be. Now, I highly recommend you use all the grommets and stuff and all the fittings so that you don't have this heavy wire rubbing on anything metallic, because there's a crazy amount of amperage available right there that you wouldn't want welding around on your frame or anything. So once the wires come into this box, hang on, let me get my ass up off the ground again. Okay. They come in over here and split. I got the positive on this side, linked together. Is that loose? No, it's not loose. It's a little corroded though. And the negatives back there. The negatives, then what I did was I drilled a hole here and ground everything. We got the negative from the batteries, the ground from the converter, and the negative that goes to the inverter. The positives here go to a fuse that lives here, right there. Now the idea here is if I wanted to give somebody a jump start, I could hook the negative cable here and the positive there and give them a jump start, but the fact of the matter is I don't give people jump starts. Hang on, let me get that back on there. Okay, now the other thing about this area is you see these two pieces of threaded rod. I drilled down between the batteries, brought up the threaded rod, connected it underneath, attached it, put sleeves, then put washers, and basically I've got this wood plate here. And what I do is I put the wood plate on top of the threaded rod and then tighten it down. And that's so nothing can make contact with the top of the terminals, and yet there's ventilation. And I put pieces of wood between the batteries so that if there was going to be any wearing, it would be on the wood and not something metallic that might cause the batteries to leak or short. Because again, as I said, got a lot of amperage here. So what happens once the power goes into the RV? Well, first off, I drilled penetrations and put cable restrainers like this thing. I put them there, and then I filled those with the holes with foam. And that's again because if there was any hydrogen gas being built up here during the charging process, I didn't want that hydrogen gas venting into the RV. So let's go inside and I'll show you what I did in there. Okay, so the batteries are underneath the couch. It's a little hot in here, actually. Okay, let me lift up the couch a bit. And we'll sit back and talk. Okay. The batteries are on the other side of this. And I guess you can see I didn't do a perfect job of sealing it, but I'm happy enough with it. Anyway, so the cables come in. Now, you got two sets of cables to deal with. You got one that goes to the inverter here, and then the other set of cables go to the converter, and that's the converter there, that box. Now, let's talk about the converter for a minute. I swapped that out when I first purchased the RV, and we bought it 1.5 years ago. And the reason I swapped that out was because it was the original converter, and those operate, that's an analog process, and the new converters are digital. And the difference basically is the new ones aren't as rough on your electronics when you're charging them and running them inside the RV. So if you're going to use something like a computer or a flat screen TV or something in here, you definitely want to upgrade your converter. Coming back here though, we got the inverter, and the inverter on the front here, sorry about that, I had to change batteries. Anyway, so there's a Gfi outlet here, and sometimes this trips, so it's nice to be able to reach in and hit that button. And on the front, let me actually turn the system on now. We got all green lights. I wonder why we're amber there. Anyway, and we got a green light on the Gfi down below. Now, if I wanted to, there's I don't know, somewhere on here, there's an on-off switch. Oh, it's right down there. And that's a real pain in the ass to get to. So what I did was, as an option, they make this remote control panel. And I cut out the front here, installed this, and that connects via a little cable here. And allows me to hit the button on the front. Hang on. I gotta figure out why. That allows me to get a status of the voltage, the load, and whether we're charging or drawing. And I can hit that and turn off the power. So with this setup, we can run the RV for about a week if we're boondocking without generating any additional power. And that's a week's worth of a microwave oven, coffee twice a day, and obviously all the interior lights and stuff like that. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I think that's about all I have regarding this. Anyway, Shelka04 out. Be sure to watch my next video on the solenoid, because that's, like I said, that's your Achilles heel. And that thing merits a whole separate video by itself. Okay, do me a favor, subscribe, leave questions and comments, and we'll talk to you later.